All right, so this is the unit circle. This is going to become your best friend for the next 8 weeks, basically, and then again next year in pre-cal. So this is how we're going to be able to solve a lot of problems, answer questions without a calculator, things like that, because you won't always have a calculator to do trick stuff. So we are going to start out with the degrees, okay? Does anybody know how many degrees are in a circle?
360.
360. So we're going to count these off to get there. So we start out at 0 degrees. So I'll use one color for all the degrees as I go around. This is going to be 30 degrees. Then I'm going to try to zoom in while I write these. 45 degrees. 60 degrees. 90 degrees. And then 120 degrees, 135 degrees, 150 degrees, 180 degrees, 210 degrees, 225 degrees, 240 degrees, 270 degrees, 300 degrees, 315 degrees, 330 degrees, and then as we go all the way back around underneath the 0, we have 360 degrees. So that's one full time around. So what you're going to notice is that from an axis to the next thing, it's 30 degrees. In between is going to be 15, and then between here and here is another 30. Okay, so it's, you count 30, 15, 30, or well, 30, 15, 15, 30, 30, 15, 15, okay, and so on and so forth all the way around. The degrees will be the easiest thing to memorize, for sure. All right, next we're going to do radians. So I'm going to do those in green. Back it out some. So I'm still going to do those inside the circle, but I'm going to do these more around the edge of the inside. Try to get a darker green. All right, so again, we start with 0. The first one is going to be pi over 6. So I'm going to write all of these and then I'll explain how we actually got them. It's easier to see once they're written there. So pi over 6, pi over 4, pi over 3, pi over 2. So come over here, 2 pi over 3. 3 pi over 4, 5 pi over 6, and then all the way over here is pi. Coming down, 7 pi over 6, 5 pi over 4, 4 pi over 3, 3 pi over 2, 5 pi over 3, 7 pi over 4, 11 pi over 6, and when we get all the way back around, it is 2 pi. All right, so the way that this works, on the axis, okay, there's increments of pi over 2. Okay, so the way we count this around is, let me come up here and do it. The denominator of what's there tells you how many of those segments are in each, like, half of the unit circle. Okay, so we start with pi over 2, so it's 0, pi over 2, so that's 1 pi over 2. This is 2 pi over 2, okay, which reduces to pi. Then we come all the way down here, 3 pi over 2. And then back around is 4 pi over 2, which reduces to 2 pi. Okay, so that's like the most basic one. Make sure it's not going to run away on me. Okay, then pi over 3. So this one comes in 3 segments. So it's here, here, and here. Okay, so the pi over 3s are increments of 60 degrees. So 0 pi, 1 pi over 3, 2 pi over 3, 3 pi over 3, which reduces to pi, 4 pi over 3, 5 pi over 3, 6 pi over 3, which reduces to 2 pi. Then the increments of pi over 4, so there's going to be 4 of these, so here, 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 and here. So I've got 1 pi over 4, 2 pi over 4, which reduces to pi over 2, 3 pi over 4, 4 pi over 4, which reduces to pi, 5 pi over 4, 6 pi over 4, which reduces to 3 pi over 2, 7 pi over 4, then 8 pi over 2, which reduces down to 2 pi. And then the last ones are pi over 6, so there's 6 of these. So these ones actually are getting, some of these are getting counted again. So we have 0, we have 1 pi over 6, 2 pi over 6, which reduced down to the pi over 3, 3 pi over 6, which reduced down to pi over 2, 4 pi over 6, which is 2 pi over 3, 5 pi over 6, and then 6 pi over 6, which reduces to pi, 7 pi over 6, 8 pi over 6, which reduced, 9 pi over 6, which again reduced, 10 pi over 6, don't run away, 10 pi over 6, 11 pi over 6, 12 pi over 6, which gives us 2 pi. Okay? So you're probably thoroughly confused the more we deal with it. Or maybe you're not. I don't know. Anyways, that's how we get all of that. Okay? So that's all the angles. So degrees, radians. If you end up taking calculus, we will only really ever deal with radians, which will primarily be what we're doing in here. We will sometimes use degrees, but oftentimes it'll be radians. So now I'm going to go fill out the outside. Now, you can think about this as like a normal graph, okay? So we can extend this out for a visual. So I've got my x-axis here. Then I've got my y-axis here. And so the unit circle is the most basic form, okay? So, color. Use pink. All right, so over here we have the coordinate 1, 0. Up here is the coordinate 0, 1. Over here is negative 1, 0. And down here is 0, negative 1. So that means all the other values that we fill in are going to be less than 1. Okay, so we're 1 away. That's what unit circle, it's 1 unit is the max radius of the circle away. So I'm going to do these in groups. So I'm going to do all of the easiest ones are pi over 4. I'm going to do all the pi over 4s first, and then we'll go from there. So I'm going to draw a line on mine. I would not draw it on yours. I'm just doing this as a visual for you because I'm going to erase it, and it's probably just going to annoy you if it's on there. So this, where we're getting these coordinates from is basically we're making triangles, okay, out of what we have here. So then this value is coming from there, but it's basically what's on the axis. So these values that we're putting down, that's where they're coming from, okay? It's the x and the y value of that. So I'm going to use blue. All right, so this one is root 2 over 2 and root 2 over 2. So the pi over 4s are the easiest one because the number is the same for both, the x and the y. Now, they're weird numbers, but same numbers nonetheless. As we go around, this pi over 4 here is the same numbers. So all the pi over 4s are going to be root 2 over 2 and root 2 over 2. The only thing that's going to change is the sign. Okay, so over here, x and y are both positive. Over here, x is negative, y is positive, so it's going to be negative root 2 over 2 and root 2 over 2. Then as we come down here, x and y are both negative, so it's going to be negative root 2 over 2, negative root 2 over 2. And as we get to 7 pi over 4, x is positive, y is negative, so this is going to be root 2 over 2 and negative root 2 over 2. And now we have all the coordinates for that. Now, in case you're curious, because sometimes it comes up, root 2 over 2 is equal to 0.707. So that's why when I drew those lines, this comes down a little beyond halfway. And so just to kind of help you visualize it. I'll do pi over 6 next. So again, I'm going to draw these lines on there, but I'll erase them afterwards. So pi over 6. So this one, the x value comes down pretty far, or pretty close to 1. And then over here, this one is pretty much halfway between, or at least visually it looks like it. And so these values, color have I not used? Purple. All right, so these values, root 3 over 2 is the x value, the y value is 1/2. So I show you these lines so that if you remember the 3 numbers, you can kind of figure out which one's supposed to go where based on like what the decimal of those would be. Root 3 over 2 is 0.8 something. 0.866. So that's why I say it's almost 1. So all the pi over 6s, so the ones that actually have a denominator of 6, obviously we count it around and you can count all the other ones, but the ones that have a denominator of 6 are going to have the same numbers, but the signs are going to change just like they did with the root 2 over 2s for the pi over 4s. So over here at 5 pi over 6, x is negative, y is positive, so it's going to be negative root 3 over 2 and positive 1/2. Down here at 7 pi over 6, both are negative, so it's going to be negative root 3 over 2 and negative 1/2. And then at 11 pi over 6, x is positive, y is negative, so root 3 over 2 and negative 1/2. All right, pi over 3s. So these are, get rid of this. These are the reverse, okay? So pi over 3 is just going to be opposite of pi over 6. So the numbers are just going to get swapped, the x and y values. So now my x value is halfway between, and my y value is up here almost to 1. And so that's going to be the root 3 over 2. So these are just swapping. So they're 1/2 and root 3 over 2. All the way around. So over here, we've got negative 1/2 root 3 over 2. 4 pi over 3, we've got both negatives, so negative 1/2, negative root 3 over 2. And at 5 pi over 3, we've got positive 1/2 and negative root 3 over 2. So at this point, this is primarily what you need, but there's one more thing to just save us having to spend another day working on the unit circle that we're going to look at, and those are the tangent values, okay? So the x values, I'll write this up here in the corner. X values are cosine values. So if I said, what's the cosine of pi over 6, you would say it's root 3 over 2, okay? Anytime something is a known value, you have to give me whatever this is, okay? You can't give me the decimal. Okay, known values we use the unit circle for. Y values are sine values. So if I said, what's the sine of pi over 3, you would tell me that it is root 3 over 2. All right, now tangent values. Tangent is y over x. So we take whatever that y value is and we divide it by x. So with the first one, I'm gonna do the math over here, and then I'm gonna erase it. So if you want to do the math on like a separate page or flip it over so you can see it, but I'm gonna show you what each of these three would be mathematically. All right, so we do y over x. So I'm going to start down here with the pi over 6's, and they will all be the same. The only thing that's going to change on those again is their sign. So 1/2 divided by root 3 over 2. Dividing by a fraction is the same thing as multiplying by its reciprocal. So 1/2 times 2 over root 3. 2's cancel, so I get 1 over root 3, which we rationalize to root 3 over 3. So the tangent value of all the pi over 6's are root 3 over 3. Now, tangent is y over x. So on this side over here, both values are positive, so my tangent is positive. When I come over here, x is negative, y is positive, so that means my tangent is going to be negative. So it's going to be negative root 3 over 3. Down here, both are negative, so that means that my tangent is going to be positive, root 3 over 3. And then over here, one's positive, one's negative, so this is going to be negative root 3 over 3. So quadrants 1 and 3 are positive, 2 and 4 are negative, and that will be the same for all the tangent values.
So, you got this different, right?
You need the tangent values. I would do the math like on the back or something, because that way it doesn't like... I'm basically showing you, like, if you memorize the sine and the cosine values, so those x and y values, and you didn't memorize the tangents, how you could find the tangents on the quiz if you forgot what they were. That's basically why I'm showing you the math. All right, for the pi over 4s, we have root 2 over 2 divided by root 2 over 2. So that's the same as root 2 over 2 times 2 over root 2. Everything cancels, so that means that that tangent value is 1. So it'll be 1 here, negative 1 here, 1 here, and negative 1 down here. So that's the easiest of them all. All right, well, I'm not going to say the last one because we're going to do that once on the axis, but for the pi over 3s, we have a root 3 over 2 divided by 1/2. So that's root 3 over 2 times 2. 2's cancel, so this is just equal to root 3. So that means root 3 over here is negative root 3. Root 3 down here, and negative root 3 over here. Huh? All right, now, on the axis, okay, on the x-axis, we would have the tangent would be 0 divided by 1. So what would the tangent be? 0. So tangent here is 0, tangent here is 0. On the y-axis, I would have 1 divided by 0, or negative 1 divided by 0. So what would that be? What happens when I divide by 0?
It's 0.
Am I allowed to divide by 0? So what is it called? Undefined. So the tangent value on the y-axis is undefined. All right, on here, there are 66 things that you have to know. Okay, you don't have to show the math to me when we quiz on it. All you have to do is be able to put degrees, radians, these x and y values all the way around, and then the tangent values all the way around. Okay, now, common things that people don't do or just don't care. Okay, when you write the degrees, you have to put 0 on here for the degrees, and you have to put 360. Okay, when you do radians, you have to write 0 again, and you have to make sure you have 2 pi. Okay, those are like the common things that people leave off. Like they won't write the 0 for both, or they write it and then they don't write the 2 pi or the 360, or they just don't write 0 altogether. People forget to label the actual axis points on there sometimes. And then sometimes we'll forget the tangents on the axis as well because they don't always visually think about them. So what I do, because obviously this is the first time you've ever seen this, unless you've taken some math that I don't know about. What I do is I do a practice quiz and then the real one. But if you do well enough on the practice one, I grade it out of 64, so you can miss 2 things and still get 100. If you get 100 or better, you don't have to take it again when we do the practice one. So next Friday will officially be the practice quiz. Okay, and then Monday, I'll grade them before you leave class. Monday will be or not Monday. Tuesday will be the the retake of the actual quiz. And I'll take whichever grade is better. So if you do better on Friday than you do on that Tuesday, totally fine. Okay, like I'll take the higher one.
And it's like a blank piece of paper.
But if you don't,
You're gonna have like a blank one. Just like fill it in.
yeah. So like what I handed you at the beginning of class, I'm gonna hand you a blank one, and I'm gonna give you another blank one before you leave today, so that you have it to study if you wanted to like try to fill it in. If you don't get 100 the first day and the second day you're like, I don't care, my grade was good enough, and you just don't do it, I'm gonna take the second one. Like, you have to attempt it. I'm just saying, if you got like an 80 the first day and you got like a 75 the second day, I'll take the 80. Okay? But you can't just not attempt it, or I will take the second one. Which, I mean, if I'm going to take the higher one, you might as well try. For tests, going forward for this chapter, I will give you a blank one on the test, and every quadrant that you get right is a bonus point. Okay, so when we actually test on this chapter, if you say you have to get everything in the quadrant to get the points. You could get 4 bonus points with this stuff. So if you got everything in quadrant 1 and you missed all the other quadrants, you'd get 1 point. If you get it all, you'd get 4. I'm going to show you a little trick with your hand to memorize this, in case you are more of like a visual, like, and you'd like something to think about with this. There. So if you put your hand on there, your fingers line up nicely with each quadrant. Okay, so we have our 0 degrees here. We've got the pi over 2's on my pinky. I've got pi over 3's on my ring finger, pi over 4 on my middle finger, and pi over 6 on my pointer finger. Okay, you're probably like, well, how is that going to help me? So, if you memorize everything on these 5 fingers, okay, and you take your hand and you flip it over this way, okay, everything that you memorized is still lined up. Okay? It sounds crazy, but it makes life easier.
Wait, what?
I mean, my fingers like
Then you take your hand, okay, so I went from here to here. The only thing you have to know is that the signs change, which you should know X and Y coordinates. You've been graphing for a long time. Flip it upside down. Okay? It's really hard on the board. Flip it upside down, and your fingers will still line up with what they're supposed to. And then you flip your hands backwards, and you're lined up again. So your thumb should always be on the x-axis, and your pinky should always be on the y. If at any point that's not the case, something's wrong. Okay, so it's go off. So it's this way, down, back. So if you memorize here, other than signs, you know all the rest of it.
Wait, what was the third one again?
So it's this way,
This
upside down,
Okay, and then like that.
and then this way. So your thumb should always be pointing toward, like, away from the center,
No, I didn't. This way?
and that will help you. Okay?
No.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it is.
just don't pull something when you do it, because
Yeah.
you know it's a little.
Wait,
It's a little crazy.
yes.
This is not. I'm just covering you together.
So, like, I had a friend who, when she was memorizing it in high school, what she did is she actually took a pen and wrote on her hand all the stuff to help her memorize it. So she would just, like the night before or whatever, she would just, like, write on there and just be like, all right. So that way she could, like, look down and see it all the time. And that's because she was having trouble memorizing it. Nathan's brother, Garrett, several years ago, when I had him, he was trying to figure out a way to memorize it, and he, like, searched YouTube, and there's, like, a song that you can memorize. So if you're an audible person, yeah, I don't know. I never listened to it, but he was like, yeah, there's some song out there. It helped me. I was like, okay, whatever. whatever, like, works for you. But that's a good option too if you're more of an audible person. I will have this posted, so if you like need to go back and like listen to it again, if that's how you work, you can do that. But pretty much everything we do here on out with trig, so all the rest of chapter 13 and 14, will be using this stuff here. So, any questions about the unit circle? It looks a little scary at first. Usually when people see it, they're like, oh my goodness, it's overwhelming. But when they realize there's a pattern, it usually helps a little bit. So, we're going to go ahead and stop for today because there's not enough time to really justify like starting problems. We only get through a couple. But we'll pick up 3.2 on Monday.
Wait, I forgot already.
It's boom, boom, boom.
That's not very helpful.
I know, right?
So we'll have this practice quiz. We'll have the real quiz the following Tuesday. Probably the following Wednesday we'll quiz on 3.1 to 3.3, depending on how fast we get through stuff. But usually trig sections will take us at least 2 days. So, but you'll need to be able to write this for the quiz that you have. So until we quiz on this, we can't quiz on everything else. So.